Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at paginating our blog. So I have gone ahead and created 7 posts here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is the 7th. So the first thing I want to do is show you how to split up these posts and basically get them in these pages, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at where we're getting these posts. So in our home index page here where we retrieve all the posts from our repository. Let's go in there. And what I'm going to do is before I call toList to execute the query, I'm going to add a take link method. And what this is going to do is basically take a certain amount of posts from the database, okay? And in this case, it's going to be 5 posts. So let me go ahead and refresh the page and see what this looks like now. So after it has recompiled here, you can see that we can't see post number 6 and 7. So essentially what we have done here is said, right, we have only 5 posts per page. And how do we now skip to the second page? So if that was the first page, how do we skip to the second page? And we do this with the skip link method. And we can say skip 5, okay? So we're going to skip 5 posts and take the next 5. So when we skip these 5 posts, we're going to end up with the 2 that are left. And here they are. Okay, so this is going to be the basis of how we're going to implement pagination. So let's go ahead and first implement something that is going to denote our page size. So we're just going to go ahead and say page size 5. So this is the amount of posts that we can have. And let's replace these two 5s with the page size. Okay, and now we basically want to know which page we're on. So let's go ahead and multiply this by 0, or rather we can say page number. Okay, and this is something that we can supply and to this method, and we can control this through the interface or the routing. Okay, so let's go ahead and say integer page number, and I will actually have to copy this method because one of the admin methods relies on this method. So I'm gonna have to create a new what's it called, a function on the interface as well. So let's go ahead and clean this up. So we have this here. Let's go to the repository interface, and I'm gonna copy this get all posts. I'm gonna provide the int page number here. Okay, let's go to the repository, and now, yeah, we have the page number, we have the page size. So this part here, if you imagine if the page size is 5 and we're on page 1, we wanna, if we multiply 5 by 1, we still get 5. So we're gonna skip 5. So what we want to do is actually subtract 1 from page number, okay, before we do the multiplication. That way, if we're on page 1, we wanna subtract 1, so it's gonna be 0, and multiply by page size, going to be 0. So we're not going to skip anything for page 1, and we're just going to get the 5 posts. And if we're on page 2, it's going to be 1, so we're skipping first page, okay? Hopefully this makes sense. So let's go ahead into our home controller. And here, in addition to the category, I want to go ahead and supply the page number here, like so. And let's make this a method body, and we will return here. And for now, I will supply the page number only to the get all posts without the category. Once we have that working, we can then adjust the method for where we get the categories as well. Now, it will be a good idea to do some safeguarding here. So let's say if we are below page 1, so page 0, if we subtract 1 from that, it's going to be minus 1. So we don't want to be able to go below page 1, okay? So let's go ahead and say page number is less than 1. Then let's go ahead and return redirect to action. And we're going to redirect to this index action, and we are going to pass in some new parameters. and we're just going to basically say page number equals 1. Okay, so if we fall below the bound, we're just going to reset to the bare minimum, which is page number 1. And let's go ahead and just pass the category here as well in case we have it. Okay, so that's that. Let's go ahead and refresh our page. Okay, so you can see we're on page number 1 here in our URL, and we're only getting the first couple of pages. So let's go ahead and try to go to page 0, and we're redirected back to page number 1. Let's go ahead and try to go to page number 2, and here you can see that we already have pagination, we just don't have the buttons for it. Okay, now let's actually see what happens if we go to page number 3. And here you can see we have no posts. So we also want to know how many items we have in our database to prevent going overboard. Like, we don't want to overflow on our page number. So for that, we will need to know the amount of pages that we have. And the easiest way to do this is, I will scaffold this now, but we won't use it just yet, is basically, let's take our posts, and we will say integer posts count equals posts.count. So this is the total amount of posts. And now we want to go ahead and divide it by the page size. And now instead of being a post count, this will be a page count. Okay. Let's go ahead. I'll put this here. And for now, we're not going to touch this. What I want to do is I want to implement the buttons to basically go from page to page. Okay. So let's go into our views, home, index. I will do them in this container bit. So I will create another div, and in here I will make some links, and maybe it will light up. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and make some links. We want to point to the same index page of the home controller, but now in our route we want to pass in the page number, right? So let me go ahead and copy that name, and what I want to do is say ASP route dash page number, and I want to be able to supply a page number here. So at the moment here we don't have anything that basically provides what page we're on, so we can pass that in our view data, but that's not practical. What we actually want to do is pass it in as part of the view model. So something, a data object that we're gonna basically, that this view is gonna depend on. Okay, so let's go ahead into our view models, and let's create an index view model, right? You can call this index page view model, you can call this whatever you want. You just know that this is the data object that we're gonna pass into the index page. And in here, first thing that I want is I want a list of posts. So let's go ahead and make a property, and we're gonna have this list of posts in here. Let's import the models, and I'll just say posts. Okay, so another thing that we want here is the page number, right? So the current page that we're going to be on is either first one or second one or third one, and if we want to go to the previous page, or let's say next page, right? We want to know the current page, and we want to basically either go -1 or +1. So let's go ahead and create a property, and we will call it page number. All right, so this will be the current page number. So then I want to take this index view model and replace this IEnumerable list of posts with the index view model. And one thing I will need to do is go to this model, and now I'm going to be iterating through the property of posts here. And here for the page number, what I want to do is I want to take actually I'll put brackets here, I'll take model, page number, and I'll just say -1. So I'm going to be whatever page number we're on, I want to subtract 1, so I go to the previous page. For the other one, I want it to add 1 and go to the next page. Okay, so now what we'll need to do is basically populate the index model, the view model correctly. So let's go ahead and create a view model. So new index view model, and in here we'll take posts, and the things that the post list that we passed in here, we're going to be assigning it now to this property. Okay, actually wrong place for the semicolon. Let's put it here, and let's align this. Okay, and now for the page number, I'm just going to put the page number that we're passing in here. Okay, and now all I'm going to do is pass the VM into the view. Let's refresh this and see what happens. Okay, so you could probably barely see this, but here are the two buttons. So we have the previous page and the next page, so we can keep going to the next page. So we're basically overflowing, which we're going to take care in a minute. But previous page, you can see that we can go back pages, and there it is, right? So where you want to place these pages is really up to you. But for now, know that basically pagination works. But you can see that we still get the page here. So it allows the user to overflow. So let's go ahead and say that if in our view, if we are on page 1, don't show it. Don't show this button to go basically below 1. So if model page number equals actually less or equals 1, and pardon my Boolean logic, only if we are above page 1 do we want to be able to go back, like so. So let's give this a refresh, and on page 1 we can't see the previous button, and if we go to the next page it appears again. Okay, nice. So let's try to solve the problem with the next page. So basically pages, the ability for the page to overflow. So essentially the way you handle this is, if we're on page 3 and we have 5 posts per page, we can say that, right, the third 3 multiplied by 5 is 15, so the third page has a capacity for 15 posts. And then if we're on page 2, 2 by 5 is 10, so we have the capacity for 10 posts, and we have only 7. Okay, so 7 is less than 10, so we don't want to basically go over. And let's say if we had 10 posts, so we're fitting the capacity perfectly, we still don't want to go over because we are not we're not below the capacity, we are right on the edge with it. So what we want to do is take the amount of posts and calculate the capacity of posts that we're currently at. So let's go ahead and go into our repository here. And where I did this page count is wrong. Let's remove the page size. And let's say again, posts count. And let's quickly say capacity here. And what we can do is basically this index that we're calculating here. Let's go ahead and put this into its own property. We will say int skip, like so. And this is what we're going to skip. All right, so let's rename this to skip amount. And the capacity is going to be the skip amount plus the size of the current page. Okay, so now we want to check if we should be displaying the next page. All right, so let's go ahead and say bool can go next, and here we can say basically post count, is it less or equals to, so right, so if we're on page 2 and we have 7 posts, so our post count is 7, and the capacity is skip amount is 5 and page size is 5, so capacity is 10. So is 7 less than 10? Yes, can go next. Probably should be the other way around. All right, so only if we have more posts than the capacity, only then can we go next. So the amount of calculation that we're performing in this repository is a little bit too much. I would like to offload that to my index view model. So let's go ahead into the index view model, and what I will do is I'll basically say public bool can go to next page, and let's actually just say next page, and we'll say get set here. So it's a new property. And let's go ahead, take this index view model. And now this is something that I want to return from my repository. Okay. And I will change the types that I'm returning here. Import it here, and let's go ahead and return a new index view model. Let me drop this down here, semicolon, assign this to post. So a very similar thing that we do in the controller. List of posts. Okay, so this is no longer going to be a list. So let's remove the list part and do the same in our repository interface. And let's realign these. Okay, so here we can set the page number as well. So let's go ahead and say page number. And now we can say next page. And we can do post count is more than the capacity. Now you can keep this calculation here if you want for simplicity. I don't need it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do something like this. And now what we can do is, or rather we will need to do, is go to the home controller and fix this part up. So I will comment this, actually, we'll comment this whole part out. And I'll create a var new VM. And for now what I will do is I'll just get all posts because our category method isn't ready yet. And I'll pass the page number here. And in our index view model, we can now basically say if model go next, then display this. Okay, so let's go ahead, give this a refresh. Alright, so now you can see we're on the second page and we don't get a button. So we can go to the previous page and we have the next button displaying, but not the previous. So if we would have more than 10 posts, we would have the next button here displaying again and the previous page displaying here as well. We still have the issue of manually being able to navigate here to the third page and basically having nothing here. I will probably leave that part up to you. So let's go ahead and try to take care of this category filtering as well. So let's take the home controller, or rather first let's go to the repository, let's copy this, let's go ahead and put the parameter here as well, so string category, and delete this. Now let's go into our repository again and let's take a look at our get all posts but for the category. So what I actually want to do is pass in the page number, which I'm doing here, but I'm not doing it in the method here. So let's go ahead and pass in int page number like so. And we pretty much want to do the same thing. The error is not going away, so something's wrong. Okay, so I have to replace the type to index view model as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy the return type here, and actually let's copy all of this, put this here, and actually now thinking about it, I see a much better solution. Let's go ahead and remove the get all posts without the page number. I'm going to remove it from the repository here as well. We're going to keep it with the category here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this function. We are going to offset the query. So let's go ahead, take this query, and let's create a variable. Oh, let me move my screen. Query, like so. Let's put all of this up here. So, okay. So we have this query. Now we can say if the category is not empty, so if we are supplying a category, what we can do is we can take the query and we can say where where the post is in category, and we can override the query with this where clause, like so. Okay, so we're putting an if statement to say, right, if we have a category, apply the where clause. If not, just skip it and execute the query here, like this. In our home controller, all we can do is just pass the category, and we can get rid of this part here. Now the last bit will be to actually pass the category when we switch the pages as well. So what we will need to do in our index v model is include the category. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make a prop string and say category. Let's go into our repository and say populate category, like so. So now in our index page, when let's drop this to a new line, and let's say ASP route and set the category to model category. Okay, now we can copy this and do the same thing here. Let's go ahead and give this page a refresh. Okay, so we're on page 2. If we go to the previous page, it works. If we take programming and categories programming, you can see none of the posts on page 1 are showing up. Can we go to the next? Can we go to the previous? And you can see here the next page is still showing up. I will actually fix that as well. So if we go to the repository and this query right here, what we'll need to do is basically offset this post count from the query that we're doing as well, right? So the post count for the category will be different as well. So instead of querying all the posts, we're gonna do it for the same query. Okay, so let's give this a refresh. Let me go to the admin panel. Let's sign in. I will grab the first post, and instead of travel, I will say programming. Submit. Go home. So seem to have lost all my. Okay, so we're skipping the part here. So let's take this part out here, and the query will be just the posts. So at the moment, this is a DB set, and let's say as queryable. And before we do the post part here, this is where we're gonna apply the take. So the category filtering still applies to the post count, but the actual pagination applies to just the posts that we're getting. Okay. So again, let's give this a refresh. Okay. So here we can go to the next page and to the previous page, and if we go to programming, we should see only one post, no previous page, and no next page. So that is working correctly as expected. This will be it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you'd like me to implement pagination with numbers, again, leave a comment. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave a like, subscribe, and as always, see you in my other videos.